everyone, and welcome back to English for Specific Purposes, Level B1. We are your hosts. I'm Mr. Daryl, and this is...
I'm Miss Tatia.
Today we are moving on to a new topic, and it is ecology.
გამარჯობა, მე თათია ვარ, ეს კი დერილია. კეთილი იყოს თქვენი დაბრუნება ჩვენს ტელესკოლაში. ჩვენ განვიხილეთ ბევრი საინტერესო თემა. დღევანდელი თემა კი ეკოლოგია, რომელიც ალბათ ყველას დაგვაინტერესებს. Okay, let's get started.
Let's move on to the agenda for today. Today we're going to talk about the reading text, vocabulary first. We'll do a little bit introduction before that. We'll move on from the reading text to the grammar of today. We'll kind of summarize at the end, and then we will give you your homework.
ვიდრე უშუალოდ გაკვეთილზე გადავიდოდეთ, მოდით შევხედოთ ჩვენი გაკვეთილის გეგმას. გაკვეთილის დასაწყისი იქნება მცირე შესავალი. შემდეგ შევისწავლით ახალ სიტყვებს. შემდეგ წავიკითხავთ ტექსტს. ამას მოყვება გრამატიკა. შემდეგ შევაჯამებთ გაკვეთილს და ბოლოს დავასრულებთ ყველასათვის საყვარელი საშინაო დავალებით. Okay?
Great.
Now let's move to our main topic, which is ecology. Ms. Daryl, what natural resources do humans need to survive?
Well, Ms. Tatia, we need fresh air.
Yeah, of course, definitely.
A clean environment, I think, as well.
Of course.
Water, food as well, the usual things. But I think we've got to pay attention to the environment.
Yes, I agree with you, Mr. Daryl. Just we can't live without fresh air, water, and of course food, right?
Just imagine when you're stuck in a big city, you always have this feeling that you want to go out into the countryside, into the villages, to kind of feel what? Fresh air, a different kind of environment.
Yes, and there are lots of things we cannot live without. I mean, the resources. We need sunlight, we need water, which is absolutely important for everybody. And there are some countries which are deprived of water.
Yes, and that's very important.
Yes, and I think that we are going to read a text today, which is about water-deprived countries and what solutions can be found to these people, right?
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, okay. Now, but before we go to the reading section, of course, we have to introduce some new vocabulary, right? Okay, now let's look what we have on our list of words. And the first word is oxygen. Oxygen is a noun, and in Georgian it means jangbadi. Mr. Daryl, can you define the word for us?
Sure. Today we're going to have a lot of chemical terminology. Oxygen is one of them. Oxygen is a chemical which has no color, no smell, but it's in the air around us, and we need it to survive, to breathe, and to be alive.
That's right. We said that oxygen is absolutely important for everyone, every human to live, right? Plants are the main source of atmospheric oxygen. So we know that plants generate oxygen, right?
Mm-hmm. That's why it's very important to have plant trees all over major cities to generate that oxygen more into the air.
Okay, and make the air fresh and good. Oxygen is a noun, and in Georgian it is jangbadi. Oxygen, jangbadi. Let's say together, oxygen. And the next word is soil. Soil is a noun, and in Georgian it is niadagi. Mr. Daryl, how would you define the word soil?
It's the material that's found on the ground all over the planet that is necessary for plants to grow, for things to grow out of the soil.
Oh yes, now I get it. So soil is a noun, and in Georgian it is niadagi. Soil, niadagi. Let's say together, soil. And our next word is coal. Coal is a noun, and in Georgian it is kvanakshiri. Mr. Daryl, can you define the word for us?
Sure. It's a typically black substance. Usually comes in lumps or like small sort of packages, and it provides fuel for many of the things that we do.
Okay, I got it now. Coal is a noun, and in Georgian it is kvanakshiri. Coal, kvanakshiri. Let's say together.
Coal.
And the next word is oil. Oil is a noun, and in Georgian it is naftobi. Mr. Daryl, can you define the word for us?
I would love to. It's a thick liquid substance that comes from petroleum, comes from certain substances deep in the earth, and it is what we use to fuel our cars, to fuel many kinds of transportation devices.
Okay, I got it. So oil is a noun, and in Georgian it is naftobi. Oil, naftobi. Let's say together, oil. And our next word is mineral. Mineral is a noun, and in Georgian it is minerali. Mr. Daryl, can you give me a brief description of mineral?
Sure. It's a very useful substance or kind of material that we can use for technology, for many things in society, in civilization that we need.
Okay, so I think that Georgia is rich in minerals.
Yes, from what I've heard, I think you are.
Yeah, that's great. Mineral is a noun, and in Georgian it means minerali. Mineral, minerali. Let's say together, mineral. And our next word is fuel. Fuel is a noun, and in Georgian it is satsvabi. I think that cars need fuel, right?
Yes, cars need fuel and a few other things as well. It's a substance that provides heat or power to machines that we have, to various things that we have.
Okay, right. Fuel is a noun, and in Georgian it is satsvabi. Fuel, satsvabi. Let's say it together, fuel. And I think that we have finished with the words, and I think that we have to practice and check how well we can cope with the words.
Indeed.
ეკრანზე თქვენ ხედავთ წინადადებას, სადაც გამოტოვებული ადგილი. ჩვენ უნდა შევეცადოთ სწორი სიტყვა შევარჩიოთ ამ გამოტოვებული ადგილისთვის. Let's start. Let's get started, and you are the first to try.
I will read out the sentence.
Okay.
Mountain climbers, Ms. Tatya, use something when they reach the high altitudes.
I think they need oxygen. Am I right?
Let's check.
Let's check. And I was right.
Very well done.
Okay, I'm happy. Now, let me read the second one. The economy has long been dependent on exports of especially gold. So gold, as I know, is mineral. Am I right?
You're very correct.
So the right answer might be minerals, right?
Excellent. Well done.
Okay. Now, Mr. Daryl, I think that it's your turn.
Okay, Ms. Tatya, here's our next sentence. These new plants haven't taken. They don't like this dry.
And it must be soil,
Yeah.
because we know that plants grow on the soil, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's check.
Let's check, and I was right.
Perfect. You're an expert at this.
Okay. And our next sentence is, some of those schools still use something for their heating. So I think that schools in the past used coal for heating, and there are still some schools which use it. So I think that it should be coal. Am I right?
I think, Ms. Tatya, you are right in this situation.
But we have to check. Yeah?
Let's check.
Okay. And I was right, and I'm so happy. Okay. Let's move on, and it's this time you are reading, I think.
The world needs to develop new energy sources in place of, what do you think?
I think that it's oil.
Yeah, it's got to be oil. Oil is such a polluter. Let's check.
Okay, I think that you are right, and you are really right. Okay, and the final answer is quite obvious. Millions of trees have been cut down for fuel, which is really frustrating, isn't it, Mr. Daryl? That the trees are cut for fuel.
We need trees for oxygen, we need trees for the beauty of the planet, and if they're cut down for fuel, which we need as well, it's a difficult choice. Do we need fuel more, or do we need fresh air?
Yeah, it's a dilemma, I think, right? Okay, I think that we have finished with the exercise, and now it's time to move on to the reading section.
Yes.
But before we read a text, I think we have to learn some words to understand the text better. Yeah?
I agree, and there's quite a few interesting words for you today.
Yes. ეხლა კი კითხვის დავალებაზე გადავიდეთ, მაგრამ ვიდრე უშუალოდ ტექსტს წავიკითხავთ, მოდი შევისწავლოთ რამდენიმე ახალი სიტყვა, რომელიც ამ ტექსტის უკეთ გაგებაში დაგვეხმარება. Mr. Daryl, now let's look at the set of vocabulary we have and try to define the words, right? So what is the first word we have?
Glacier. Glacier. And the meaning of the word, Ms. Tatya, we have a lot of them in Canada, where I come from.
Really?
In the north of the country, left over from tens of thousands of years. They continue to exist. These are large parts, masses of ice that have not melted, and they've kind of become part of the environment.
Oh, so interesting. I would love to see them one day. So glacier is a noun, and in Georgian it is qinvari. Glacier, qinvari. Let's say together.
Glacier.
And let's move on to the next word, and the next word we have is shortage. Shortage is a noun, and in Georgian it means deficiti naklepoba. And Mr. Daryl will define the word for us.
I would love to. Shortage, it's something you never want to have. It's when you have not enough of something.
Okay, it's bad to have shortage of, for example, water or food, right? So shortage is a noun, and in Georgian it is deficiti nakleboba. Shortage, deficiti nakleboba. Let's say together.
Shortage.
And the next word we have is tow. Tow is a verb, and in Georgian it means buksiri tsareba. Mr. Daryl, can you define the word for us?
Tow is when you pull along something. It might be heavy, it might be a machine, it might be some kind of transportation. It could be a boat, it could be a car. You tow it along because it can't move by its own power.
Ah, okay, got it. So tow is a verb, and in Georgian it means buksiri tsareba. Tow, buksiri tsareba. And we have to say it together, tow. And our next word is setback. Setback is a noun, and in Georgian it means tsarumatebloba dabrkoleba. And I think that Mr. Daryl has to tell us the English definition of the word, right?
Setback, it's something that can frustrate you if you're not expecting it. It's something that stops you from finishing a task, something that kind of pulls you back and is a negative in a sense.
Okay, something that hinders.
Yeah, it's something that hinders you.
Okay, I got it now. Setback is a noun, and in Georgian it means tsarumatebloba dabrkoleba. Setback, tsarumatebloba dabrkoleba. Let's say together, setback. And our next word is current. Current is a noun, and in Georgian it means dineba. Mr. Daryl, can you help me with the definition again?
It's a slightly complex word. It's the movement of, could be water, could be air, could be electricity as well, around from different positions to different positions. So the movement of these substances around in some way. And yeah.
Okay, I think that we are going to learn and to read about currents in water.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Current is a noun, and in Georgian it is dineba. Current, dineba. Let's say together.
Current.
And I think that we have finished with the words, and it's time to read the text. But before we read the text, let's have a small talk, Mr. Daryl. So, Mr. Daryl, where does your drinkable water come from, and do you drink tap water or buy bottled water?
This is an excellent question. As you know, I'm in Georgia right now, and I find it very impressive that you have a lot of bottled, natural, local water. And I find that fascinating. I don't have that really in Canada. And in Canada, I was drinking tap water. But here, you have a lot of natural resources and a lot of natural water sources, which is fantastic.
Yeah, we are happy and we're lucky that we can drink tap water, and because it's absolutely clean and it's not dangerous for health. So I think that we are one of the lucky countries to have enough water and enough clean water, right? Okay, but by the way, Mr. Daryl, are there any countries deprived of water, and how is the problem solved?
I would say it's hot countries, the countries around the equator, the middle of the earth. There are quite a few, probably Africa. I've heard Australia is quite hot and lacking in a bit of water as well.
There is shortage of water, right?
Yeah.
We learned this word.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are countries, and I think that it's very hard for the population to live there, and I think that scientists are working hard to come up with ideas to help these people. And today we are going to read a text which will tell us about a very innovative kind of approach of getting fresh drinkable water.
Great, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, let's start. There are 1.1 billion people on Earth who live without access to clean drinking water. At the same time, trillions of gallons of fresh water a year disappear into the ocean, useless to these water-deprived areas. While the polar ice caps are made of undrinkable frozen seawater, icebergs that break off from glaciers are tremendous stores of fresh water. In fact, it's estimated that more than 2/3 of the Earth's fresh water is in the form of ice. In recent 5-year period, an average of 195 cubic kilometers of ice fell from glaciers in Greenland annually. That equals 51 trillion gallons of potential drinking water each year.
Desperate times call for desperate measures to find solutions to these water shortages. A French engineer is working on an extraordinary idea: drag massive icebergs from the polar regions to dry areas that are desperate for water and melt them for drinking. The idea of towing icebergs from the poles is not a new one. In the 1800s, other scientists also thought of highly ambitious schemes for the providing of fresh drinking water. The idea remained popular in the late 20th century, but has never actually been carried out.
Perhaps the person most likely to make the idea of a reality is Georges Mougin, a Frenchman who has spent the past 30 years working on it. After many setbacks, Mougin partnered with a French company that specializes in creating 3D simulations. He relaunched the project as iStream and now uses the advanced forecasting technology to help predict ocean currents and other variables, such as wind, which could cause problems for possible ocean crossing. The goal of the project is to drag a single iceberg from the coast of Canada across the Atlantic. But even if it worked, would it be cost effective?
We can compare the costs to another extreme method of getting fresh water from dry areas: desalination. This is the process of removing the salt from seawater to make it drinkable. This method is certainly not cheap. So how do the costs of desalination compare to towing an iceberg? Estimates suggest that water from towing an iceberg would cost more than 3 times as much as desalinated water. So unless Georges Mougin can come up with a much cheaper way to transport icebergs, his dream may never be realized.
Oh, such an interesting text. So I think that scientists are thinking about 2 solutions to the problem. One is towing icebergs and melting them into drinkable water, and the second is desalination. And they are thinking about the costs now, right?
Yeah, but isn't it amazing that we have such ideas and we can come up with such creative answers to problems that exist on Earth?
Yeah. It's absolutely amazing.
It's the process of dealing with the ecology of our Earth.
Yeah, I agree with you. But now I think that we have to check how well we have understood the text and how well we remember it. So I think that we have to read the statements and find out if the statements are true or false. მოდით შევხედოთ წინადადებებს და დავადგინოთ რამდენად შეესაბამება ეს წინადადებები ტექსტს. თუ წინადადება შეესაბამება ტექსტს, ვამბობთ true, ანუ მართალია. თუ წინადადება არ შეესაბამება ტექსტს, ვამბობთ false, ანუ მცდარია. Let's start and have a try. There are still a lot of people on the earth who do not have sufficient clean water. What do you think, Mr. Gerald? Is it true or false?
Based on what we've read, I think that the answer should be true.
Yeah, you're right. It's true. And why is it true? Let's check. There are 1.1 billion people on Earth who live without access to clean drinking water. Okay, Mr. Gerald, can you try the next one?
I'd love to. So water, Miss Tatya, from the glaciers can be used as drinking water. Is it true or false?
By the way, I'm not sure, but I think that this answer must be false.
Let's check.
Let's check. No,
Unfortunately,
it's true.
yeah,
and why is
true.
it true? Let's check
Let's
it.
find out.
So while the polar ice caps are made of undrinkable frozen seawater, icebergs that break off from glaciers are tremendous store of fresh water. So I forgot it. Okay.
The importance of reading a text carefully for our listeners.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's move on to the next statement. Mr. Gerald, can you read it for us?
Sure, I'd love to. The idea of towing icebergs from poles were first carried out in the 18th century.
Let me think. I think that this is true.
Let's check. I think you are right.
And I'm not right, unfortunately. It's false.
Let's check the reading.
Let's check why is it false. In 1800s, other scientists have also thought of highly ambitious scheme for providing fresh drinking water. The idea remained popular in the late 20th century, but was never actually carried out.
We both missed that in the reading.
Yeah, we missed that part, maybe.
Again, the importance of reading carefully.
Yes.
So, Ms. Tatya, let's move on to the grammar section.
ეხლა კი გრამატიკის ნაწილზე გადავიდეთ. Okay, Mr. Gerald, now let's look at the sentence. The idea has been popular since 18th century, but it has only been carried out recently. Now, if we look at the sentence, Mr. Gerald, do we know who has carried out the idea?
No, it's not specified at all.
Yeah, just so I think that today we're going to talk about passive voice. We use passive voice when the doer of the action is either not known or not very important. And Mr. Gerald will give us more details.
A very useful voice. Now, the passive voice is used to focus on the person or thing acted upon and not the person or thing doing the action. Writers also use the passive to give more importance to the action itself. Now, for example, we use the present perfect in the passive form for all the same reasons we use it in the active form, to talk about recent actions, experiences, and ongoing actions or situations. Let's have a look at the form of the present perfect passive. The affirmative form, we use the object plus have or has plus been plus the past participle, the verb in its third form. Here's an example. The impact of the program has been determined. Let's look at the question form. Now we have has or has plus the object plus been plus the third form or the past participle. Has the problem already been solved? Let's have a look at the negative form. We use have or has plus not plus been plus the past participle or the third form of the conjugated verb. Here's the example to make it clear for all of you. The project has not been finished yet.
And I think that we have finished with the grammar rules. Now let's move on to the exercise. ეკრანზე თქვენ ხედავთ წინადადებას, სადაც გამოტოვებული ადგილი. ჩვენ კი უნდა შევეცადოთ, რომ ზნას სწორი ფორმა შეურჩიოთ. Now let's try it. Okay, now let's read the sentence. The seawater in the sea, then we have the verb test, repeatedly by scientists. So the agent, the doer of the action, is at the end of the sentence. So I can guess that I have to use present perfect passive. And it will sound like this. The seawater in the sea has been tested repeatedly by scientists. What do you think? Is it right?
Sounds great to me.
Okay, let's check. Yes, absolutely right.
Well done.
Yes, the seawater in the sea has been tested repeatedly by scientists. We don't know exact time when it was tested, and we also, the doer of the action is obvious. Generally, scientists do it. It's at the end of the sentence, so the concentration is on the action itself, right?
Very good.
Okay, now let's move on to the next one, and you have to try it this time.
Sure. So we have researchers, and the verb is find, growing population of crabs in the area. Now, Ms. Tatya, I would say the following. Researchers have found a growing population of crabs in the area.
Yes, and I think that here we don't use passive voice because the doer of the action is clear. This is researcher.
Yeah.
So researchers do it. It's at the beginning of the sentence, so we have to use active voice, present perfect, right? And we should say researchers have found growing population of crabs in the area. Okay, now we can move on to the next sentence, and it is the cause of pollution. Then we have analyzed, then by scientists. Again, the doer of the action, the agent, is at the end of the sentence. This is scientists. So I think that the focus here is on the action itself.
Very good.
So I have to use passive voice. So I would say the cause of pollution has been analyzed by scientists.
Sounds excellent.
Let's see. Yeah, absolutely right. So the cause of pollution has been analyzed by scientists. So, Mr. Daryl, I think that it's time to finish our lesson. Can you summarize the lesson?
Sure, Ms. Tatya, as you remember, we looked at the vocabulary that we needed for today's lesson at the beginning, at the very beginning. We moved on to the reading right after that, and we ended with a discussion of grammar, the present perfect passive.
Absolutely right. ეხლა კი შევაჭამოთ ჩვენი გაკვეთილი. გაკვეთილის დასაწყისში ჩვენ შევისწავლეთ ახალი სიტყვები. შემდეგ წავიკითხეთ ტექსტი. ამას მოყვა გრამატიკული სავარჯიშოები. ეხლა კი დროა საშინაო დავალებაზე გადავიდეთ. Mr. Daryl, what are we going to have as a homework?
Very much connected to the topic of today, we want you to write about the importance of water.
Yeah, and I think that people will have very, very interesting answers to that, right? Some of them might come up with some kind of solutions of how the water can be generated.
Something that neither me or you have thought about even.
Yeah. And where can the homework be uploaded, Mr. Daryl?
It can be uploaded, Ms. Tatya, to the address you see on the screen, and you might even find the model answer that you can base your answer on at the same address.
Okay, I think that we have to look forward to the answers.
Yeah.
გყავს დავალება ეკრანზე აღნიშნულ მისამართზე გამოაგზავნოთ. So, we have to finish, but I think that there are more lessons ahead.
We have more to say about ecology, I think.
Yes, and some other interesting topics too. So, stay with us and keep on learning.
Until next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.